Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. Welcome to India Factoring Chat Show, Factoring one-stop solution for your global aspiration. I am Vaibhav Raj, your host for the chat show today. Before we welcome our esteemed speaker, please allow me to provide an overview of India Factoring. India Factoring offers working capital solution through the factoring product aimed at converting your receivables into cash. The company is a subsidiary of European bank FimBank and is registered with RBI as an NBFC factor. India Factoring is also 83 category authorized dealer. We started our operation in India in 2010 and through our global network, we offer one-stop solution around receivable finance. For the past 6 years, we have held the top position in export factoring in India. Additionally, we have garnered recognition through numerous national and international awards, including accolades such as Best Receivable Finance, being ranked among the top 25 safest place to work, and receiving the prestigious FCI Best Deal of the Year award, among others. Let me introduce you to the speaker. He's basically Bruno Botelho, based in Germany. He's a seasoned professional with a diverse background in finance, supply chain, and technology projects. With over a decade of experience managing teams in China, Bruno has expertise in areas such as finance, supply chain management, and marketing. Currently serving as the director at Originate Capital, Bruno specializes in working capital financing, receivable financing, and factoring. His expertise extends to areas like securitization and blockchains. Hi, welcome Bruno to our chat show.
Hi, Vaibhav. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Uh, After starting, I think I should start with the topic. Can you share some insight into the current state of this global factoring market, including the growth trends and regional dynamics and any other emerging opportunities?
Sure. Um, the global factoring market, has been in a robust growth trajectory. To quote Financial Times, the factoring volumes have grew significantly in the past years. Probably range around $3 trillion. The largest growth has come from Europe and Asia as well. But I think the biggest these last few years, the biggest impact in the industry has been obviously the interest rates, the rise of the interest rates. Um,
Yes.
this has actually been positive for factoring companies such as Originate Capital, in the sense that if you are a business owner and you have to roll out a loan that you have, working capital loan, would you prefer to roll out it and lock it for a period of 1 year, 2 years, at a very high interest rates, or would you prefer to stay flexible and basically sell your invoices at discount in order to obtain financing? You never know how the market will perform, so you are better positioned to face any trouble if you stay flexible and light. Therefore, this has helped a lot the different factoring platforms that exist today, as well, of course, as there's an increase in the global trade, and technology has been helping as well for this growth.
Do you think the current economical situation, which is going all around, is going to? I mean, how it will be contributing to this, the current economic scenario of the whole thing which is going on?
Of course, it's very difficult to look at the global situation, right? We need to look at different regions. Obviously, the U.S.-China tensions, the war in Ukraine, all the restrictions
Yeah.
with Russia and the Western world, put every piece moving very fast, and again, it is all about staying flexible and staying informed. I think the typical business owner that exports from India in to the audience has to be aware that there are different solutions in the market, um, and and understand them, and in their small variances that can make a big difference, right? So interest rates tend to decline, or expected to decrease in the next 2-3 years. But we will not go back to the interest rates what we had in Europe of 0% plus spread. So you need to understand that you can, as you are selling in the global market, as you are sourcing in the global market, as you are hiring talent in the global market, you can also source financing and obtain financing to grow your business in the global market. This is more and more possible, and I see this trend only growing.
Yes, obviously. As you also have experience of this technology thing, and you also have experience in this, you have a seasoned experience in this supply chain financing. So, can you highlight on this thing, like how is technology going to revolutionize the this landscape of factoring services? How is it contributing something new which you can contribute?
I don't know if you know this, Vaibhav, but factoring exists for over 500 years. The ships that were leaving England,
Definitely.
Genoa, Venice, today's Italy,
Yes.
were already selling their expected cash flows, their promise of payment to local lenders in the ports. So factoring is definitely nothing new. It exists almost since there is trade, a global trade, and global trade here is the key, because obviously when you are doing business in markets that you don't know, that you're not familiar with, it helps a lot to obtain some certainty in regards to your expected payments. So in the last few years, digitalization has transformed the industry. So you have text recognition, you have digital signatures, you have multiple data sets that you can use in order to do the underwriting of your account debtor. So the in the end, the company that will pay the invoice. So with this flourishing of possibilities, online factoring companies such as Originate Capital has grown in and appeared in many countries, and therefore today is much easier for a business owner to get 5-6 offers on the table without leaving his desk in a week, right? This is only possible because technology allows us to borrow money, to gain exposure to certain risks, and to do arbitrage in the interest rates as well. So if you look at the base interest rate in the US, is roughly 5% per annum. In Europe, roughly 3.75% per annum. India, close to 7%. So you, as a smart business owner, need to think how can you shift the risks across the board in order to have more options, basically.
Yes. As we know that this geopolitical factors and trade tensions between major economies is going to impact this availability and cost of trade finance. So, what strategies basically business can employ to mitigate risk associated with such uncertainties? Can you focus on that part also?
Sure. I mean, nobody knows the future, right? So the only thing you can do is to
Definitely.
stay informed and prepare yourself, and then be flexible. Which means you need to understand what options do you have, and you need to prepare for any event or the most common events that can happen these days. What we have the trade corridors being restricted by pirates on the sea. You have tomorrow you can have um, well, of course, another war, but you can also have a volcano that stops or a strike on a port. Everything you can expect and more may happen, right? So it is, if you start acting that time to try to find solutions to finance your export business, it will be too late, right? Because you do not, you cannot execute a financing structure in a couple of days. But if you prepare in order to have multiple providers, multiple lenders, to have multiple forms of access to working capital, you don't need to execute today if business, is going as usual. But in the day that you need to execute, definitely you are able to do it. And I think business owners tend to not gather themselves with all the possible avenues there is today to obtain financing. But of course, this education, it's ongoing process. And we have seen, we in Originate Capital, more and more sophisticated um, business owners in terms of their choices and what they are informed. Everything is online these days, right? So it's just a matter of the time you spend to look for exactly what you need. But going back to your point,
Okay,
um,
so
flexibility is definitely the number one attribute if you want to stay competitive in a very, very rapidly changing environment.
okay, so we have started getting some comments regarding this. So you want to take question right now only, or at the end of this conversation, or throughout, if there is any question you want to solve?
No, I would just perhaps say a little bit about when you asked me about technologies and so on. Obviously,
Mm.
blockchain has provided some pretty good
Yes.
advantages in terms of visibility, in terms of traceability of the whole process of documents and documents,
Yes.
well, documents and KYC, etc. But the new word is AI, right? So AI is not, as far as I know, is not yet changing the game, but in the future, and I say 2 3 years, it will probably provide a big help for the predictability of financing needs, as well as credit underwriting matrices. So this is not existing, but it will definitely help in a couple of years.
Definitely, definitely. Blockchain is going to revolutionize this thing also, and keeping the records and all thing. What you said. Apart from that, just this blockchain thing. Any other emerging trends you might have
Yeah, I was
encountered?
referring to AI, actually, to artificial intelligence, more than blockchain, because blockchain has been in the industry, or at least some attempts to use it, pretty much seven years already. But AI, with the surge of OpenAI, it definitely has been on everyone's mind in the last year, and we will see developments coming to us very soon.
Yes, definitely. I would also like to highlight the point like how do this trade finance instruments such as this trade credit insurance and factoring contribute to mitigating liquidity risk in this cross border trade?
Well, we at Originate Capital, is if you go to our website, we
Yes.
say right from the beginning that we do not rely on credit insurances for the reason that for us, credit insurance is very good if you can access it, which basically means if you are selling to a large buyer in the US, yes, you can get a credit insurance and that can help you to get obtain financing. But the majority of cases are not that, right? So you just you are limited basically by the credit insurance companies, and I understand they have to do to mitigate the risks and to obviously run a tight operation, but I don't think it is something that you should count on when you're trying to export, and therefore stay informed about other options you have when credit insurance is not available. Um, and of course, it has a cost to it, even if it's available. But but I don't see it as a great way, or not even a good way, to help in getting liquidity for your business.
Yes, definitely. We have a question right now. How can business effectively manage risk associated with supply chain disruption through finance strategies like factoring? This question is from Ritika.
Yeah. I think as a business owner, you have to understand where the risk lies on factoring financing operation, which means if you are trying to obtain financing for your business and you are selling again to a European or an American buyer, a retailer, let's say the apparel industry, the typical trade, where does the risk lies once you have of course already produced? I'm talking about post shipment financing. Does the lender prefer to borrow money against your balance sheet, or does it prefer to borrow against your buyer's balance sheet? So this is a way for you to mitigate the risk for the lender, is to say, look, I'm gonna get approval from my buyer to recognize that this invoice exists and is gonna pay you and in this time, and through an IPU, a revocable payment undertaking, you are giving the lender a much more easy operation, in the sense that it just has to collect from the buyer and not from you as the exporter. So if you have a situation where you can get this IPU signed, and in our experience, many times you can, it's just a matter of having a good relationship and explain the whole transaction, then you can tell the lender that if there is a disruption, for example, in the port or in the delivery or in any situation that can happen, the risk is shift to the buyer, which in principle will have a better credit worthiness than you have, right? In general. So if you don't understand where the risk lies, you will probably going to make a bad decision, or at least trying to, oh, you will not get the best deal. Let's put it this way.
I would like to add one more point over here. Like, what are the loopholes still existing in this factoring system which you might have encountered and it's still not solved?
No,
And
look,
what can be the probable loopholes?
this is not a loophole. This is not a gray area. This is nothing. This is, lack of a better word, is arbitrage between the local market and the international market, right? And trying to find the best way to stay competitive. So you have to find efficient ways to optimize your production. You have to find efficient ways to optimize your taxes. You have to find efficient ways to optimize your financing vehicles. So all of these things count. Now, if you are a manufacturer of denim or shirts and you are selling abroad, you are very good. And what is your focus is on production, right? And selling it. But you do not expect to be as efficient as it is a professional financing advisor, or in the case a platform, or in the case because the business and the speciality is different, right? So I would suggest that you ask them what are the options in order to find that arbitrage that is always possible to be done. But these are not, I wouldn't say these are loopholes at all. This exists for many years. It's just that these days, through technology, is accessible for small, medium companies, because the big guys, they've always done it, right? They always secure financing from any international bank since the beginning, right? So today it's possible for the small, medium company to do it as well, and that is very interesting.
Yes, sure. Apart from that, I would like to uh, request you to share some example of how factoring has enabled businesses to overcome these financial challenges and seize opportunities. I mean, particular examples which you might have encountered, your personal experience, sir.
Uh, you mean to be more efficient in terms of accessing financing?
Sorry, your voice was distorted.
Could you repeat the question again?
Uh, can you share any example of basically how factoring has enabled businesses to overcome financial challenges? I mean, the major examples which you might have encountered.
The best examples I have is what we do every day, which means we have exporters from many different countries, including India, um, looking to sell their invoices at discount. But they know that the possibility and the cost of doing it locally through a local bank or through a local factoring company is somehow limited or expensive, or not really flexible. Therefore, they come to us asking what can you do, right? And for us, it is very simple. We purchase that invoice. If it's to an American buyer, we purchase that invoice with knowing that the risk of we getting paid by the buyer after 60 days, 90 days, is the risk of default of that American buyer. Therefore, for us, this is uh, American financing operation, as if it would be a local American supplier of that buyer, right? So for an exporter that is in any other part of the world, accessing this local market is actually a very interesting way to stay at least flexible. Because of course we and platforms like ours, we are not going to replace all the other options that there are in the market, right? But we can work as an alternative, but also as a complement. So the beauty of factoring is that you are not restricted to sell all your invoices to the factor as you issue them. You can cherry pick which invoices you want to sell if the terms and conditions are favorable to you. So it is obviously important that you understand that you can do this, because an invoice, if you see it on the balance sheet of your company, stays on the
Yes.
assets side, exactly as an equipment of your factory, exactly as a car, exactly as inventory. So why don't you basically monetize this invoice? Because if you have the invoice there stopped in the drawer and waiting to be paid, well, you have the risk that it's not going to be paid. So that is one. But at least you don't want to waste 90 days, 120 days, uh, instead of being paid right now. So it is a decision you have to make. If you can use that money somewhere else, to make it grow. And I think that is the most important thing business owners are understanding these days, is that you can rotate the money the same way as you rotate inventory, or that you look for leasing of your equipments, right? The economy where you have to own everything, very intensive in capital, and just wait, it's over. The pace is completely different these days, and you have options. So the example of invoices is just one more.
Definitely, Bruno. I would like to add. I would like to ask one more thing. Like there is a growing emphasis on the sustainability and ethical sourcing. So basically, how can trade finance mechanism be leveraged to promote responsible business practices across this global supply chain? Any views on that?
Yeah, sure.
And with
um,
this question, after this question, we can
Sure.
sure
So,
go on.
so obviously, I mean, factoring companies need to get the funds in order to move them to the and purchase the invoices from business owners, right? So our funding comes from investors, right? So from investors that can be banks, funds, private individuals, it doesn't matter. What matters is what is the appetite for whatever product. And ESG funds have been growing in the past few years. Obviously, people have more concerns about doing good while making money, right? So it is a trend. In the last, I would say, 1 year, you hear less about it, but it is always good to have documentation that can prove that you are respecting environmental, social responsibility rules or common sense. That will definitely help you down the road, even if you don't find a reduction in the spread that your lender is asking you today to execute that trade. um, will probably help you in the future. So but again, it comes from the investors that request, that need. And there are many funds that only invest in projects, in trades, in factoring transactions that respect the rules of environmental social responsibility. So yeah, definitely look for it, and try to keep your house in order to, when the time comes, you will be able to access these funds.
Sure. Apart from all this thing, any particular thing which you would like to add on for our viewers from your experience?
um, well, again, it's stay informed, do your own research, there, and stay flexible. And do not, I hear, I mean, we have requests from clients that have good invoices to sell to us, but they want it executed in 2 or 3 days from the beginning. Like we heard from them on a Tuesday, and they want to get the money by Friday. I'm sure this happens to you guys as well. But this is not the way. This doesn't really work, because these transactions, we are talking about a lot of it's a lot of money being moved, and therefore people obviously, still technology helps us to be very fast and to digitalize. I mean, if you're doing a transaction on paper, get away from it. Every transaction these days is done digitally, or should be done digitally, for all reasons. But still, it takes time, and therefore prepare yourself, stay flexible. You can distribute your needs of financing and growth by many different platforms and providers of liquidity. So test them, understand how it works. So then at some point it might be very, very useful. And if it's not, at least you are already saving some money today.
Yeah. Thank you, Bruno, for joining us in our chat show and sharing such a valuable experience to our viewers. Thanks a lot. Hoping to host some more session in future.
It's my pleasure, and keep doing the good work you're doing.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.